Hello and welcome to another Tuesday Talk with Ruby Reese. My name is Killian. I'm co-founder at Ruby Reese and I will also be your host. This week I have been speaking with Caroline from Dogsercise. Caroline is someone that has been on the podcast a number of times now, and we've always spoken about different topics, but every single time she comes on, without fail, she encourages me and gets me inspired to think about doing more different types of dog sports with Ruby. And I hope that she has that effect on some of you guys in our community as well, because I suppose there are so many different types of things that you can do with your dog, and I suppose we joke a little bit in the episode that you're just about to listen into, a little bit about enrichment and how we've kind of pigeonholed it to meaning sniffing, whereas enrichment could actually be any sort of enriching activity. And there's so many different kind of structured dog sports out there that don't necessarily have to be competitive, if you want to just compete, as a human dog team against yourselves and your own personal best record. That's totally possible, and there's so many options out there for us to get out there and get busy with our dogs, because I think we expect them to integrate so much into our lives and our lifestyles, that sometimes we forget that we can, why we originally got a dog was probably to get out and do, more cool things together. So it's really, really nice, and I've met loads of people from Caroline's community and other dog sporting communities across Ireland, and everyone seems lovely, and it seems like a great opportunity to be able to get out and meet people and meet other dogs, and like I say, do fun things together. So without further ado, I will stop babbling and let you listen in to the chat that I had with the wonderful Caroline. Caroline, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for coming on and joining me again.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Would you do us the pleasure of introducing yourself once again?
Absolutely. My name is Caroline. I run Dogsercise and I'm based near Youghal. And I offer a variety of purposeful activities for dogs and their humans.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And you've been on a couple of times already, as I've hinted at. And you've been on speaking about some of these other sports. But we've got a special sport that I must admit I don't know a whole lot about. So we'll all be learning together. Today we're talking about Treibball. Is that right?
That is right. And it's a very new sport to Ireland. It's very popular at the moment in Germany and Austria.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the Czech Republic they do a good few competitions as well, but over here it's pretty rare.
Okay, so you're burning the torch here for Treibball in Ireland.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So I'm guessing a lot of our listeners will also be complete beginners like myself. Maybe for us complete beginners, in its most simple terms, what is Treibball?
So essentially in Treibball, you're teaching your dog to push a big ball, like a gym ball, toward you. So you're the goalkeeper, essentially, and you're sending the dog out. They get the ball and they push it toward you. It's been created to mimic sheep herding without sheep, and especially to provide an outlet for the herding breeds that don't have access to sheep. That's how it developed. But it is absolutely suitable for all breeds. A lot of dogs enjoy that, a lot of variety of dogs. Like I've seen videos of Chihuahuas and Great Danes playing Treibball. So it is suitable for all dogs, and the ball size is depending on the dog's shoulder height. So we can find the ball that's suitable for each dog, and that enables them to all play Treibball.
And so, how can I imagine...
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, how can I imagine it? Like, is the ball then like kind of the same size or kind of up to the shoulder of the dog? Is it a little bit bigger than the dog in general? What way can I imagine?
It depends a little bit on the dog's preference.
Mm-hmm.
Some dogs prefer to push bigger balls and some dogs prefer to push smaller balls. But we want to ensure that the dog, when it's parked behind the ball, that they can see us. So that's why we wouldn't put a Chihuahua behind a full-size gym ball, because they won't be able to see our hand signals, which is what we direct them with. So we we tell them which ball to go behind and which ball to push toward us. We might actually just park them behind a ball and send them over to the next ball before they're allowed to push, just to work on their impulse control. So it doesn't mean just because we put them behind a ball from a distance that this is the ball we're engaging with. But at all times, they need to see what we're doing without having to peek beside the ball, because then they lose their ideal position to push the ball to us in a straight and most efficient line, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. And
yeah.
and I have another question. So are these balls that are usually adopted from another type of sport, or are they specifically created for this sport?
Well, as with all the doggy stuff, there are Treibballs specifically designed for Treibball. Supposedly they're a bit more resilient. I have unfortunately made the opposite experience because I bought one and it popped in the first session. So I use the normal gym balls that everybody can buy for like the yoga balls, right? You blow them up to the size you need for your dog, and that's that. You know, they're like, sometimes you get them on offer for anywhere between 10 and 20 quid. And I always try to get the burst proof ones because they are a little bit more sturdy. But yeah, that's what I use, and my dogs are perfectly happy pushing those around.
Okay, and they don't need, like you say, it doesn't need to be a particular type of hard material or anything, because the dogs aren't picking it up in their mouth. I'm guessing you're saying pushing, so this is definitely kind of more of a contact sport as opposed to a pick up the ball and bring it with them, right?
Exactly. So there's no picking up. The dogs, a lot of dogs that love to use their mouths, they find it really hard to then get the mental flexibility to not do that and not bite the ball. But it's all about pushing the ball, and all, like, dogs have different techniques. Sansa, for example, uses the tip of her nose more and kind of nudges it forward, whereas Hamish goes pretty low on the ball and kind of uses his entire nose bridge and forehead. So a few other dogs might use their shoulders a little bit to direct the ball, right? Others might use their cheeks. So it's up to the dog to find the technique that works for them, which I love because it empowers the dogs to make choices, as long as it's appropriate. So we don't want the claws on the balls and we don't want the teeth on the balls.
But for example, an appropriate kind of pushing of the ball with their paw, would that be kind of acceptable?
Like, it sometimes happens, especially when the ball moves. But it's not, it's more an accident out of movement, as opposed to purposely kind of kicking the ball with the paw, right?
Okay, got it.
It would be a little bit of an awkward movement, and also I would be worried, and I don't want the dogs to get into the habit of that. I'd be worried that they, accidentally get on the ball, get stuck on it, and then do a roly-poly with the ball.
Okay.
Or anything like health and safety, obviously, we'll have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And especially when the dogs are working with smaller balls, the risk that they topple over with the ball is quite high if they don't have it trained properly and don't have the impulse control.
No, that makes total sense. And I wasn't really thinking about the David Beckham of dogs. I was just more thinking because Ruby, being a Frenchie, has quite a short nose and quite a flat face. So even when she's opening doors, her instinct is to go with the paw and do quite a human-like gesture. And even if she's getting something off, say, a step that's up higher, like a treat or something, she will often kind of reach out with her paw and retrieve it back rather than sticking her nose out, just because her paw goes out further, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I get the health and safety part as well. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that any dog can do it, but is there a specific kind of perfect fit here on a dog's age, on their fitness levels, on their energy levels, or is it really open for everyone?
It's really open for everyone, and that was one of the reasons why I got into it, because it's so inclusive. I seem to find all the inclusive dog sports that everybody can do until forever, At the end of the day, we don't really dictate how fast the dog is going. They can all go at their own pace, right? And we have the herding breeds that are more predisposition toward the work like that. They absolutely love it. My two dogs found it really easy to pick it up and understand what I want from them, just because they're both herding breeds and they it's in their blood, right? In their DNA. But any dog can be taught, right? Any dog can read body language, human body language, as well as other dogs' body language, right? So we just need to have clear communication, develop that, and build a really, really solid foundation for Treibball. And I try to hammer that into my students that it's so, so important. Those first few weeks where you build your foundation are so crucial for success down the line. Like if you build something on sand, it'll go pear-shaped at some point, right? It'll all crumble. So we're focusing on a really, really strong foundation, and it's much more fun to actually then do the really sexy stuff later on, and you don't have to worry too much about it because your dogs haven't built any bad habits. So it's super, super engaging and fun. The one thing that I would absolutely say is that you need to have a good relationship with your dog in order to play Treibball. So you understand kind of who they are and how they communicate, so then you can adapt and communicate with them better and make them understand in your own unique way as a team what you want from them.
And the motivations are going to be important there as well, I suppose, you know, what motivates the dog and what makes them happy. Yeah. And
absolutely.
I suppose, like you mentioned about building foundations as well, like how much foundation building is really involved until someone feels like they've really started into this sport. You know, is this a long process? I think, you know, for example, in comparison maybe to agility, because we would have all seen agility, you know, there's quite a lot of moving parts to agility, a lot of different pieces to learn. Would you say that Treibball is kind of an easier, kind of quicker entry into it, or is there more to learn to it? What do you think there?
I think it's potentially easier because we don't have such a variety of tasks to be done. When you look at agility, you have such a variety of obstacles, right? You have your A-frames, your dog walk, your seesaw, your tunnel, your jumps that can be taken in a variety of ways, right? So there's already at least 5 obstacles that need to be taught individually and appropriately, obviously, and also that requires foundation. With Treibball, I found my dogs already had a good foundational repertoire, so kind of making the shift was really, really easy. But a lot of dogs where people have done the basics, let's say they have a nose touch, right? So the dogs are required to touch the ball with their nose, nudge it, right? So when you have a nose touch on cue, that transition is easy enough. Whereas if your dog doesn't have a nose touch, then obviously you need to teach them a nose touch on your hand first. So it really depends on the individual dog, where they're at, what they've been taught previously. Do they have a reward history? Have they built habits around big balls already that might not be as beneficial, right? But I think it is easy enough to learn it. It might be a little bit tedious to get that foundation really solid, but once you get there, and I try to break it up, right? It's not like we're doing nose touches for 4 weeks only, you know? You do a variety of different things to keep it interesting, keep everybody engaged, keep them on top of their game. We have a few challenges built in that, like along the line of the course, so it always keeps everyone on their toes and engaged, and we don't want it to get boring, right? We bring in different objects. So once your dog knows a nose touch on your hand on cue, then touch stuff, right? Get them to touch a few things, get them to close the door, get them to, you know, and then we transition it onto the ball. And then the really fun bit starts already pretty soon, where they start to nudge the ball around or nudge a toy around or whatever it is, you know?
And I suppose when someone is then up and running in Treibball, you know, is are there competitions? Is this quite an individual activity? Are there kind of courses like agility? Is it a bit like man trailing where people kind of get together in groups to do it? What does that look like?
So at the moment,
Yeah,
because there's nothing
yeah,
here,
yeah.
um, I'm kind of leaning a bit on what they do over in Germany.
Hmm.
There are three different rule sets basically for competition. One is a freestyle one developed by a very popular Treibball person, and the other two are from, I don't want to call them governing bodies, but they're like club governing
Associations, kind of.
dog sport club association. So they're kind of the umbrella
Hmm.
over all the smaller clubs. And they kind of have a set of rules for competitions and things. But it is quite free,
Hmm.
if I want to call it that. Usually, when you enter a competition, the dogs are divided into small and large. Sometimes you have a medium size as well, but it really depends on the organizer of the competition, what they want to do. And then the the task itself that you have to complete depends a little bit what division you enter, right?
Okay.
Are you in a beginner's class or are you more advanced? So with more advancement comes more distance, more balls. The balls have to be pushed in a certain order. It's not just go get one, start with one and bring them all to me, right?
Hmm.
It's dedicated. Okay, you have to bring the yellow one in first, then the blue one, then the red one, right? So, and keep in mind, dogs are colorblind. They
Yeah,
don't, they don't know which ball is which,
exactly.
so they have to follow the signals, right? Um, but it really depends on that, and then your time counts.
Hmm.
So, however much time. So you, as the handler, are basically in the goal. You're the goalkeeper, and the dog brings the balls to you. You are not allowed to leave that goal area. You get
Okay.
you get points deducted if you step out of that area in order to help your dog, right? Um, and you also get bonus points if your dog does something particularly well. So it really, like, there's a whole mix of things playing into it. But I think it's really, really good because the dogs that are very good and the teams that put a lot of work into training, they get rewarded,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yeah,
they can earn bonus points quite easily. And obviously they're more efficient with their time and everything. But even the dogs that are a little bit slower, that's fine too, you know? It's not like some fun competitions don't even have a ranking.
yeah,
It's literally just you pass or you don't pass and get feedback on how you can better yourself for the next one. So, um, yeah, it's not like there's winners and losers, which I love.
yeah.
I love anything that's not non-competitive. So since we don't have competitions in the country, I think um, we can kind of play around a little bit and see what works best and kind of have our little tweak on it. But my plans are once I have a good few students gone through the course and have built their foundations, that we meet up and we have a Treibball day. And we just do Treibball all day and put up different challenges and stuff like that, and do progression obviously then as well and some troubleshooting. But yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. No,
it's all
it's.
happening.
I was gonna say it's really, really cool and exciting time, really, for tribe ball in Ireland because it's just in such an infancy stage that that anything can happen, and it's I
Yeah,
suppose anyone that joins the community can nearly have a hand at forming what the future of the community looks like. So, um,
exactly.
that's really, really exciting. And like you say, other countries are well set up and very well used to tribe ball at this stage, but that comes with their rules and regulations, and a community's already been formed with its norms, whereas here anything could really happen. So that's
Yeah,
really, really exciting. And
it
I
is.
suppose some of the rules and ideas coming from other places that you've mentioned sound quite complicated, but I think if anyone just has a look at sheepdog trials or at even at crufts, it's amazing what dogs can do and what we can train them to do easier than
Yeah.
you think, probably. So I can imagine this being really, really kind of fun way to work with your dog. And I suppose on an individual level, then how did you get into tribe ball?
Well, I have actually signed up for a course, an online course with Sansa. That was before Hamish came into the picture. And we've played around with that a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And she had so much fun. So it really started when I was pregnant with my first. Sansa could not be in the same room. So I did my pregnancy exercises on that yoga ball. And Sansa could not be in the same room with the ball. She was scared of it. She was scared shitless. She was like, nope, not happening, right?
Yeah.
So we then kind of worked a bit around desensitizing her to the ball, making it a positive thing. And eventually she actually started to engage with the ball and started pushing it all over the place when I was done with it. And I was like, oh, cool. So I tried to find something that kind of tapped into that behavior a little bit. And I was like, oh, maybe we can do something with that. And I stumbled across Treibball. And it all happened from there. So I played around with Sansa a bit. Then we kind of focused on other stuff and it kind of fell into the background, but it was always there. And I thought, how can I make this into something that others can learn as well? Because the course that I bought was in German. And, I was like, I want to bring Treibball to Ireland because it's always been there. We've always pushed balls around to some degree. And then the idea was born to create an online course out of that because, nobody wants to come to y'all for 4 weeks and do nose touches on different objects. Everybody can do that at home. So, but it's a fully supported course. So I'm there in the background, holding hands and everything. It's like a live course, just nobody has to travel, which is great. And the community is growing slowly. The course community as well. So we're helping each other out. We're encouraging each other. And it's really like to see my dogs, especially because I do a lot of filming now that I can look back on, filming course content and filming other bits, filming social media bits and whatever. I can really see, especially with Sansa, with Hamish not so much. He's still a bit like, I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah.
But Sansa, she lights up. She just starts glowing. Right? When the ball is out, her tail is going, her body language is like, yeah, I love this, I want this. And she's so happy, she's beaming, right? So that's my confirmation that I found the thing for her. She wouldn't be like that when we're man trailing. She kind of is similar when we do trick training. She loves trick training.
Okay.
But, she wouldn't be like that, like scent detection. She does it. She does it and she gets her reward for it and everything. But it's not the same energy that she brings without going over the top.
Yeah.
Right? She's not going over the top and doing silly things then. She's still on the job. She has her brain engaged and it's just having a heap of fun.
Yeah. And I love how you approach this whole topic around kind of enrichment really, because I suppose we very easily forget that a snuffle mat is one form of enrichment, and it can be an enriching activity for some or for many dogs, but that's not where enrichment begins and ends. There's loads of other things. So you saw that your dog had this obviously kind of fascination with the ball and kind of nosing it around the place and stuff, and then going from there. So I suppose that's one of the major benefits, is it, for dogs that really like, you say, the herding activities or playing with balls in general, that it's, I suppose, an enriching, it's scratching that itch, isn't it, of them wanting to perform these activities. So do people, I suppose, do people associate any particular benefits then with the dogs? They're probably wrecked after a training session if they're really enjoying it and really concentrating, are they?
Yeah, they are. It doesn't take long, especially because they have to think so much, right? They have to consider so much. They have to watch me constantly with my body language, right? They then have to permanently apply impulse control. You have no idea how hard it is for Sansa and Hamish to just go behind the ball and just stand there.
Yeah, okay.
Without putting their nose on it, right? It's really hard. So we do a lot around impulse control, which is great because most dogs lack impulse control. It's really a thing, and it can, like, it's a bit far-fetched now, but for some dogs, this can make the difference of snatching the sandwich off the table or not, if they have
Yeah.
impulse control or not, right? So transitioning the impulse control that they have to apply in Treibball to other areas of life can have a huge positive impact on the relationship and the day-to-day. So I think they're tired in a way because they have to really put on the thinking cap. We can't just tell them what to do. They have to
Yeah.
figure things out a lot of the time. And we also learn how to present ourselves so they get it right. So body language is a huge one. Just not taking it too seriously. Like, we laugh a lot when we train.
Yeah.
A lot of things don't go as well as I want them to, especially on the first go. Like, most of the time it's pure chaos on the
Yeah.
first try. And I have to figure out, do I need to break it down into smaller steps for one of my two dogs? Then they're both collie crosses, but they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sansa is really like, I want it now. Whereas Hamish is like, he's a bit more reserved,
Mm-hmm.
and really was like, let's have a think about that first. Well, Sansa dives straight in, right? So I always have to slow her down a little bit because she will skip some basic steps
Yeah.
to get to the sexy bit.
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I want to. She if she was a person, she would read the last page of a novel
Okay. Yeah.
before she starts the first one, right?
Yeah. Bring
But
me to the good
Hamish,
bit.
exactly. So, Hamish is very different. So I obviously have to adapt. And I have students in my course as well who train two dogs at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. They go through the course with both their dogs, and they're very different as well. So it's a good challenge,
Yeah.
I think, for every dog and every handler because it's so different as well. Like, usually what we do with balls is they're bite size.
Yeah.
First of all, they can just easily carry them in their mouth, and we just either throw it. I've stopped playing fetch for a good while ago because it's
Mm-hmm.
just bad. Sansa has a back issue, so she's not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I do throw a tennis ball to reward, but we're not playing fetch.
Yeah.
They're
Exactly. I get
repetitive,
what you mean.
you
Yeah.
know?
There's a difference.
There is a difference. So having Treibball now, where there's a big ball that's being pushed around the place, we still play ball in a different way, and we
Yeah.
have a different set of rules. So it really builds that mental flexibility as well, that not all balls are equal,
Yeah.
not all balls are supposed to be carried. And a lot of the time, like, I see stuff, it just cracks me up because the dogs are like, what do you mean we can push it with the nose?
Yeah.
It's like a whole new world for them.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful to see, like, oh my God, I never thought about this. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so much fun.
The light bulb goes on. And I love that you said that you have a lot of fun with it as well, because I think I'm sure one of the bigger challenges is that there's so much potential for everyone to get frustrated, right? I mean, your dog wants to get to the reward and get to the fun bit, like you say, but they're trying to communicate with your dog as well. You want your dog to win too. You're not just
Yeah,
doing this to see them fail. You want to see them doing well. So I love the fact that you kind of approach it with a sense of fun and with a sense of, okay, we know this is going to take a couple of tries because, like I say, I think there's one of the bigger challenges is probably overcoming your own frustration as well, and just saying, look, we're going to have a bit of fun with this. So that's brilliant.
exactly. Not taking it too seriously. And I always say to my students, taking a step back is never a bad thing in dog training. Never, 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 never. What you're doing is you solidify your foundations and you have an easier job down the line,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
always work on the foundations. Once you get to a certain point, we tend to forget about the foundations. It's a bit like, you've learned the alphabet in order to write a letter, and
Yeah.
then we don't go back to considering the alphabet anymore. For dogs, it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
They need to constantly come back and do the basics again, and repeat, otherwise it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just lost, and then the behavior becomes a bit sloppy. And when it becomes sloppy, then bad habits sneak in. And
Hmm.
then we all know how hard it is to get rid of bad habits, right?
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
undo a habit. It's much more work than getting it right from the start and investing that little bit more time in the foundations.
And I suppose when you're going back to basics quite a bit and everything, how do you keep this type of training engaging then?
I try to mix it up for my students. I
Okay.
say, okay, today use a totally random object that you never thought to do a nose touch with.
Hmm.
Just something really random. Or get your dog to bring a smaller ball, not a tennis ball now, but a smaller ball that's easily portable. Like I use a basketball that already was somewhat deflated. So even
Hmm.
if the dogs because they're really sturdy basketballs, they might not be as comfortable on the nose when they push them,
Hmm.
but they're really sturdy, so they can take a few bites, without, and if they're flat already, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, but they can still roll them.
Yeah.
Just bring that to the park or wherever you go with your dog, to the beach, to the woods, whatever, and find a clearing and just get them to nudge that ball in a totally different environment,
Hmm.
right? Proving that behavior in a different context. Or get your dog to learn to target a face cloth or a small piece of yoga mat that you can easily pack up. So we're using targets. I should explain that. We're using targets to teach the dogs to park in certain places where we need them parked. So go behind the ball, wait there
Hmm.
for further instructions, right? So we're using target work to get to place the dogs out until they understand that,
Yeah.
and then we remove the targets eventually. But to start to build the behaviors, we place the targets so the dogs find an anchor point in the
Hmm.
environment.
Okay.
But if we teach them to go to a small target, no, I don't have. Yes, I do. Um, that can be something like this. So this is one of those dish mats that they have in
Hmm.
Aldi and Lidl every now and then. And I just cut them up. And this
Yeah.
is really easy to put in my pocket, but I can use that as a target, for example, right? So going out and about and having something like that with you that your dog has learned to use as a target, that's important. You have to practice that at home first. So your dog knows to find this. And then you just place that down in the woods and you do a bit of target work at different distances. Maybe place the target behind a tree. Yes, the dogs can not see you properly.
Hmm.
But if you just put it slightly behind the tree, so there is a little bit of an obstruction there, and because they have to learn to go behind something, right? Um,
And just for clarity, would this target training then be you associate a word or hand signal or sound or whatever it is with your mat,
yeah,
and then you say mat, say that's your word, mat, and the dog goes and looks for that mat to go and stand on, basically. Ah,
pretty
okay.
much, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much,
okay. So then
yeah,
they've got a place to go to. And
exactly.
because there's lots of bits and pieces here, like the target training and the touch pieces, does that mean that you can do quite a lot of the preparation on a wet and windy day in Ireland indoors in your own living room or wherever, whatever indoor space that you can
Yeah,
kind of do a little bit of training? You can do a lot of this indoors, right?
yeah, you don't need a big space. Absolutely not. The big space then comes into play, and that's my responsibility when we have the Treibball day.
Hmm.
Then we need a bigger space to accommodate, but it doesn't have to be huge, right? We're not talking horse riding arena size. It's not necessary,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
If you have um, like a big enough room that you can move comfortably, your dog can move comfortably, and you have a gym ball in there, depending on the size of your dog. Now, if you have a collie size or a larger dog, and the gym ball would be the proper gym ball size, then
Hmm.
obviously that takes up a bit of space in your room. But they don't have to push it far at the start. They only push it like that much, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay,
So
so you're
you
talking
don't
like
need a lot
20
of room.
centimeters, 10 centimeters,
Yes,
20 centimeters. It's not,
you
it
don't
doesn't
need a
have to be
lot of
crazy.
room. Especially the foundation bits. Most of it is filmed in the kitchen.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because the weather was horrendous outside and I couldn't put the camera up. But a lot of it has been filmed in the kitchen, and we just use household stuff that we have at home to practice that. So like you're going around something, going behind something, listening to different signals, left, right, weight. All these things can be practiced in your sitting room, no problem. And then when it comes to more distance, more speed, if you have a chance to rent a field somewhere, if you don't have a big enough garden, then, you might go for that. But there's always opportunities to do that. If you go to a friend's garden, for example, anywhere that is enclosed. The great thing I love as well is that Treibball can be played with a muzzle on.
Okay, yeah,
Because
makes a
the
lot of
dogs
sense.
can also push the ball. Obviously, the muzzle needs to be properly fitted, so when the pressure of pushing the ball comes on, it's not hurting the dog, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and the muzzle doesn't move. That's
yeah, of
really
course.
important. So it needs to be a really well-fitted muzzle. But dogs can play Treibball with a muzzle, which I think just opens up the inclusivity bit even more. Because everybody's so worried at the moment about muzzles and the bullies, the XL bullies and the restricted breeds and everything. So I think having something that is really inclusive of everybody is really, really helpful, and providing an outlet. Now, not every dog enjoys it.
Yeah,
I'm like, we can't force the dogs to do it and love it. Some dogs will fall in love with it. Others say, nah, not for me. That's fine. They might be more on the sniffy front, who knows? But it's
yeah,
about finding something that brings your dog joy as well as yourself. Where just looping back to the enrichment bit, right?
yeah,
Because enrichment essentially is meeting your individual dog's needs. It's not a snuffle mat. Enrichment is not a snuffle mat.
yeah,
It is
exactly.
meeting your dog's
Yeah,
needs. It's
yeah.
really important. And every dog's needs are individual. So even 7 pups from the same litter may have different needs. All
Yeah,
7 dogs have different needs, right? It's
yeah.
not a one fits all thing.
And
So
equally, you can kind of scratch those different itches as well, right?
yes,
just because they like the sniffing part doesn't necessarily mean that they won't like a ball sport, right? So I think
exactly.
you can kind of do different things for different life stages,
Yeah,
for just doing different things as well. Because I think
yeah,
some dogs do like a bit of diversity, don't they?
absolutely. Like my dogs do pretty
Hmm.
much everything, right?
Yeah,
They're my guinea pigs, and they're also my film buddies, right? So whatever I have to film, they're on it, they love it. They love their trick training. They love they still love man trailing and
yeah,
scent work and everything. It's just that I see a difference in enthusiasm
hmm,
with the different sports.
yeah,
So Hamish is pretty much happy to do everything. He goes nuts for man trailing. Hamish is
yeah,
a trailing dog. He absolutely adores it. Whereas Sansa, as I said, Treibball is really her thing, where
yeah,
she absolutely blossoms. So I think it's identifying that can sometimes be tricky,
yeah.
um,
But I
because you
think if
might
people have
have
a bit
to
of
go.
curiosity, I think have a
Yeah,
bit of curiosity, try things out, and
exactly.
then the more things you try as well with your dog, the more you're going to kind of realize what they really, really like you say, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And talking about trying things out, you've already mentioned an online course. So how do people get started? Is this an like an ongoing online course? Is there a upcoming start date? Where can people find out more? And can we put a link into the show notes as well?
Absolutely. I would very much appreciate a link. So developing that online course has taken quite a while
Yeah.
because I wanted to get my head around how to do this, and I had to find a platform as well that accommodated it the way I
Hmm.
envisioned it. It took a little while to kind of develop it and get it going. But the online course is on a rolling basis, so everybody can join at their own
Hmm.
leisure whenever they want to, okay? But the modules in the course are staggered. They are drip
Okay.
fed. So you don't have access to everything immediately.
Yeah.
You get the first week, find your feet, find your way around the platform and stuff. You get an equipment list. and so on. So familiarize yourself, have a think about your cue words you want to use, verbal and visual cues, and stuff like that. Do a bit of mental prep work, okay? And then in module 1, when it lands, we're going to start on the foundations.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll do that for 3 weeks, and then the next module drops for another 3 weeks. So overall, the course is over 16 weeks long. Sounds a lot, but I think it is necessary to build it properly.
And it flies by as well.
It flies by.
16 weeks, it sounds like you say like ages, but it's, I think if
it
if
flies
you keep,
by because we're having fun. So.
Exactly. Brilliant. Then we'll definitely get a link into the show notes for everybody to check out.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on and giving us a brilliant introduction to Treibball. I know that Ruby would love to try it out, so we'll have to get on that. Thanks a million for coming on.
No worries at all. And just if anybody is interested in it, if you happen to be in Ballymaloe on the 4th of April, we're gonna do a demo, Sansa and I. Maybe Hamish as well. I'm not sure yet, but I'll probably bring Sansa. She's a bit more solid at the moment. So we're going to do a Treibball demo in Ballymaloe, and I'm there for questions as well. So, that would be a good opportunity as well to catch it and get an idea.
That's brilliant news for me as well, because I'll also be in Ballymaloe on the 4th of April, so I look forward to seeing the demo there. Thanks a million, Caroline. Really appreciate it.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me again.
And once again, a huge thank you to Caroline for coming on to the podcast this week and speaking with us all about Treibball. You can find out more about this sport and lots of other dog sports that Caroline champions in Ireland on her social media pages and her website, which you can find alongside the Ruby Reese links in our show notes. Caroline highly recommends that you subscribe to this podcast as well, if you already haven't. For those of you that have yet to do so, it really helps us to get in front of more dog lovers and get some really good information from guests like Caroline out there to a broader public. So we thank you so much for following and subscribing where you can. We wish you a lovely week. We'll be back with another topic next Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening in. You are appreciated.